I'm like, man, if you comb through this roster, we already hit our top 5 best Green Bay Packers, right? We did that list. Now it's like, let's go and comb through the roster and kind of see who are the more underrated players. So this is my 3 underrated Green Bay Packers in 2025. And again, these are the players that I think they don't get enough love for what they put together. So with that being said, we're going to go through it, and I want to get Tim's take. Everybody in the chat, let us know if there's anybody that did not make this list. And we put a poll question up already here on YouTube. Which underrated Packer are you most excited about? Emanuel Wilson, Carrington Valentine, Brenton Cox Jr., and I put other comment. So if there's another player you think's underrated, throw it in the comments here and let us know. All right, so here we go, Tim. Packers are loaded with young talent. Everyone's buzzing about what they can do in 2025. But you and I know that while the big names get the headlines, dynasties are built on the guys you don't see coming. Real long-term success isn't just about first-round talent. It's about finding those overlooked players, the underdogs who are just waiting for their shot to prove everyone wrong. Today, we're looking past the obvious stars to find 3 guys on the roster who could be absolute game changers. These are the players who are ready to outperform their contracts and become pillars for the Packers' future. Number 1, Tim, you met this guy in person, I believe, didn't you? Helping him look for his pup that was lost last winter. Or was it the winter before, I believe? Player number 1 on the list is running back Emanuel Wilson. All right, first up, let's talk about a guy who embodies pure grit, running back Emanuel Wilson. This is a player who wasn't just overlooked. He was off almost everyone's radar coming out of Fort Valley State was where he went to college at, Fort Valley State. He clawed his way onto the 53-man roster as an undrafted free agent and has done nothing but impress since he got here. Keep in mind, guys, he was not good enough to make the roster in Denver, if I remember correctly. That's where the Packers picked him up off the scrap heap, and he ended up making the 53 here. When you're an undrafted guy, the story is usually about just surviving. Wilson threw that story out the window. In 2024, he stepped up and became an important part of the offense. In fact, he was highly effective, averaging an impressive 4.9 yards per carry. He was right on the cusp of hitting 5 yards a carry on 103 attempts and scoring 4 touchdowns. Those aren't just good for backup numbers. That's legit NFL production. Tim, I want to get your take, man. In 2023, PFF grade 80.0. Last year, he jumps to an 82.9, a run grade of 86.3. What do you think about our boy Emanuel Wilson here, man? 6'1", 226, bowling ball, but boy, does he got some lateral burst, man.
Yeah, for sure. Not underrated in my book, right? You know, if you've been keeping an eye on him, you know what he's capable of. I think he's much like our receivers in a crowded room, I think, Emanuel Wilson is in a talented running back room with Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd and a couple young bucks behind him. But, to that point, I think he's he's met or exceeded our expectations, put it that way, I think, at least for me personally. And that's not just because that's my boy and I've met him in person a couple of times up here around the facility and stuff. But, he's a hell of a player, man. And if you look at the way, his career is progressing, man, this is another opportunity for him to take another step himself. Like I said, I truly believe that he's running back too. It's his spot to lose. If, Marshawn Lloyd steps it up and takes it away from him, great. But I think Emanuel Wilson has played enough good football for us to be considered our number 2 running back, at least at this point going into preseason.
Yeah, Wilson or Daryl in the chat says Wilson is actually 5'10", 5'11". I think that's more accurate. 6'1" seems tall for Emanuel Wilson because he is like a bowling ball, I'd say he probably is closer to 5'11", if I were to
I'm 6 feet tall, and I've stood 2 feet away from him. He's about my height, so if that makes sense.
United Base says signed with Denver as a UDFA, waived 3 days later on May 12th, 2023, signed with the Pack May 22nd. 2023. And again, the big thing that sticks out to me, everybody, when you sign a player like this, I'm sure y'all could relate to this type of story. There's always a moment where you remember at first click, like, hey, that dude's a dog. Like, he's a pretty good player. I remember he bounced, he took an A-gap run, bounced it all the way out in the C-gap, hit the sideline against the Bengals in preseason the first year we had him. And I remember our boy, God, what's his name? I can't think of it now. Gary – former running back for the Packers. Help me out in the chat.
Gary Ellerson.
Gary Ellerson said, what that Emanuel Wilson kid did, that's not normal. Like, that's That's a vision, that's burst, that's pull away speed, everything, man. Everything.
And then look what he's added since those moments, right? Catching the ball out of the backfield, blocking and pass pro, the little things that you need a running back to do. I think Wilson has certainly stepped up.
Yeah, definitely. And Deadfish in the chat says ESPN roster has him at 5'10", 226. So PFF, man, they slacking, Tim. They've been slacking here a little bit.
5'11" with the thick cleats on, right? The deep turf
spikes.
Cleats. Yep, big spikes.
Yeah. All right. Says what makes him a true gem is his explosive, decisive running style. He hits the hole hard and has a surprising burst that could turn a simple 4-yard gain into a 15-yarder, recording explosive runs 10 yards or more, all right, on 13% of his carries, Tim. Again, 13% of his carries. I think he had 103 carries and he had 13, so a little less than 13% explosive plays. That's wild. 13% of your runs, right on the cusp of it, being explosive runs, just shows you how dynamic he is for sure. The Packers have their star in Josh Jacobs and a high draft pick in Marshawn Lloyd, but Wilson has proven he's more than just a camp body. He's a reliable, efficient player who provides critical depth, and in the grind of a long NFL season, guys like Emanuel Wilson are what keep a team's Super Bowl hopes alive. I'll tell you this, I immediately think when I hear that line right there, 2010, when the Packers won the Super Bowl, Ryan Grant goes down with an injury early in the season.
James Starks, baby.
James Starks steps right in out of Buffalo. That's Emilio's alma mater, right, by the way. He's listening somewhere, grinning like a possum in a dumpster. But yeah, he stepped right in and carried the load, and lo and behold, they go and win the Super Bowl, man. So,
and Starks was one of those guys too that was kind of steady Eddie, kind of flying under the radar for a while. Contributing here and there, and then when the team needed him, this is what we talk about, right? Next man up, and I think that's a great comp, man. You see a lot of that in E. Wilson for sure.
Yeah. All right, up next, number 2 on our top 3 underrated Packers list, Brenton Cox Jr., edge defender. I love that shot, by the way. Thanksgiving night, looks like a little snow flying, right?
Here's the guy. Flurry.
Got the John Madden patch on the jersey.
Oh, I love it.
It's unbelievable. All right, here we go. Next, we have a player with first-round talent who took the scenic route to the NFL. Edge rusher Brenton Cox Jr., if you follow college ball, you know the name. Cox was a monster in the SEC, but off-field questions saw him go undrafted. All right, that's where the hidden gem opportunity comes in. The Packers took a no-risk shot on a guy with elite physical tools, and it's starting to look like a brilliant move. Cox has been developing as a rotational rusher, and the guy just plays with his hair on fire. After Preston Smith was traded last season, Brenton Cox got his shot and immediately provided a spark, recording 4 sacks in just 7 games on limited snaps. He has the relentless motor you love to see, making an impact on defense and special teams. So when you dive into it, he played in more games than just 7, but I think they were saying he actually got the technical start in 7, which I did notice him out there quite a bit down the stretch. PFF grades 2023 of 58.2. That was much to the amazement of his run defense. We talked about he would just press upfield, run right past the run responsibilities, trying to get to the quarterback, take himself out of the play. Really harnessed that last year, coming in with a 67.2 PFF grade. So 67.2 defensive grade, run defense grade improved to a 64.1, pass rush grade improved to a 66.4. So Brenton Cox Jr., I think he's someone that can really, really excel in what we ask him to do for sure. A team-friendly contract, he is pure upside. The Packers need guys who can consistently get after the quarterback to help out Rashawn Gary, and Cox has the power and pass rush moves to be a real problem for offenses. Don't be shocked if he goes from a relative unknown to a guy announcers are talking about every single Sunday, man. Jacob was ahead of the curve, Tim, on Brenton Cox Jr., and every time he brung it up, I'm like, man, he plays too out of control. He's rushing up the field. He cleaned that up in one offseason.
Yep.
I think the dude, if the Packers don't retain him after this year, I think he's one of those guys that could probably go. He's got enough tape out now. He could probably go get $5 to $6 million on the market per year.
I was just gonna say they better retain him because he'll end up being a Philadelphia Eagle or something. I can just totally see that happening. So, and you're right. Jacob was totally ahead of the curve, right? He saw this coming a mile away. And I'll tell you, man, you talk about another guy that can play on the edge or you can kick inside. it's Brenton Cox Jr. So there's versatility there as well. And to your point, Clayton, I think he's cleaned up a lot of the mistakes, and he's progressing along really nice. So it'll be fun to watch him out there this year.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to scroll back here for just a second. Actually, I had it on the Rashawn Gary article. I was going to look at those grades from the edge position room, because when you look at it, like looking at Brenton Cox Jr. and the role he's going to play, like last year he played 187 snaps. What I would like to see happen, Kingsley Enagbare, if I remember correctly, was like 400 to 500 snaps. I want to see him go down to the 150 mark, and I want to see those, whatever the difference is, 350 snaps split between LVN and Brenton Cox Jr. That's going to truly tell you if Brenton Cox Jr. is the player we think he can be, right?
Yep.
So I think that would be huge if they approached it that way. What do you think about that? Am I being too harsh on JJ Enagbare, or do you think that might be the right way to go?
No, and speaking of guys that can, rush out of control sometimes, Enagbare would definitely be guilty of that. I think we've seen that on tape a few times, but we've also seen him make incredible plays as well. But that being said, I'm a fan of that. I'd love to see and like we said, maybe Rashawn or LVN's kicking inside, so maybe it's not about necessarily taking snaps away. It's about just changing your deployment, and maybe Enagbare is still out there as an edge, and you've got other guys in the middle. So, but I'd love to see more Brenton Cox Jr. on the field. Bottom line, and if that means taking 5 to 10 snaps away from Enagbare, I'm for it. You don't want a guy to turn into a progress stopper. And if you've hit your shelf or you've kind of maxed yourself out, then that's kind of what it is. If not, then it's on JJ Enagbare to come out and ball out this year and not allow us to have conversations like this, right? Play so good that we don't want to take you off the field.
Yeah, completely agree. All right, up next, number 3 on the list, Carrington Valentine, cornerback. All right. Our last hidden gem might just be the most impressive of the bunch. Cornerback Carrington Valentine, finding a quality starting corner in the 7th round is like hitting the lottery. But it looks like that's exactly what Green Bay did. When he was drafted out of Kentucky, the thought was he'd be a guy who needed a few years to maybe contribute on special teams. Instead, injuries pushed him into the spotlight as a rookie where he struggled, but in year 2, he looked like he belonged. Valentine plays with a certain swagger and confidence that you just can't coach. He's physical, he's aggressive, and he has a knack for being in the right place at the right time. The fact is, he's played so well in his 2nd year that he became a key contributor on the defense, leading all Packers cornerbacks with the 69.0 passer rating when targeted, while also leading the room with 2 interceptions. Him and Jair both led the room with 2 picks out of that cornerback room last year. So, Tim, in the cornerback room, he's leading in passer rating when targeted. He's leading in interception. People say, well, Nate Hobbs is here. That's right, but Nate only had 1 in Vegas last year. So even with his numbers from last year with Vegas, Carrington still leads the cornerback room with those 2 picks. How cool would it be to see Carrington take a step forward and get 4 interceptions and keep that passer rating when targeted under 75-ish? That's all I'm asking for Carrington Valentine, man.
Yeah, he got my vote in the poll. That's my pick. You already know. I fully expect him to take another step, and as far as I'm concerned, man, that's CB1 until proven otherwise right now on this football team. We'll see. We're a week away from camp, but this is a star in the making. He has been since he got here, and I think time and time again, when asked to step up, he's answered the call, and he's earned the opportunity to compete for that quote unquote CB1 role with the departure of Jair, which we all know that was his boy, and probably still his boy, probably still really close. A guy that he's looked up to, and when you talk about the on the field stuff, I love it, and I think CV is going to pick up a lot of the slack left in that CB room when you lose a guy like Jair as a leader and, contributor on the field. So it's about time. He's right in that wheelhouse where we want, right? Old enough to know better, young enough to still enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to seeing year 3 with CV out there, man.
Yeah, Holmes MD1 with the special request. My knee.
My knee.
The old perk game, as our boy United Bates refers to it in the chat. So true. So, yeah, Carrington again with the PFF grade last year, 65.5. So in 2023, he was a 57.5. Cheeks. then he jumps to a 65.5.
65%.
65%. That's what it's my favorite drop, and you guys always surprise me with it. I don't even realize I'm saying 65 until you hit it. 65.5 defensive grade, but look at the coverage grade, Tim. 71.4.
Yeah. What do we want corners to do, right? Cover.
Yeah. Cover and stay healthy. That's what we need, right? Now, I will say this. That run defense grade strikes me a little bit as odd, that 40.5, because we put a clip together of like 10 or 12 plays of him coming up and smacking the running back and attacking receivers on smoke screens and stuff. So I feel like it's
that PFF algorithm, right? What are you going to do?
Exactly, man. So, all right, following the release of Jair Alexander, Valentine is now set to be one of the team's top 3 corners, a massive and permanent role. He's already shown flashes of being a true lockdown defender, and the coaching staff loves his work ethic. In a league where you can never have enough good corners, having a young, hungry, and cost-control player like Valentine is an absolute goldmine for this defense. Talks about the coaches loving him, Tim. I remember, I've talked about this before, SEC Media Days 2023, Coach Stoops of my Kentucky Wildcats got up there and said, we got some adjustments we got to make, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I do know word for word he did say we lost our emotional leader on defense in Carrington, talking about Carrington Valentine. So it's a perfect example, too, of how someone who can be one of, if not the most important players on one side of the ball in college is just a 7th-round pick in the NFL, right? The difference in obviously skill level is astronomical. But I think it's awesome that the coaches have kind of identified Carrington as one of those guys. And I think he's going to pick up where Jair left off. You know, Jair was always that spark plug. He brought that energy.
Yeah.
I know there's a soundbite where Matt LaFleur was mocked up and he dabbed up Jair Alexander. I think it was Matt's first year with the Packers. And he said, hey, I need you to bring that energy you always do today. He wants you, you need people on that roster and on that sideline and on that field that's going to be able to pick everybody up and keep things kind of amped up, and not in an overly aggressive, hateful way like fire on fire, but just making the game fun. I think Carrington brings a lot of that.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, spark plug, right? We know that's what Jair brought to the table. And I think, to his credit, Carrington Valentine's fully capable of embracing that role. And let's be honest, he's got a lot of help in that secondary, right? We've got Xavier McKinney back there. We've got Keyshawn Nixon. Keyshawn's not shy about bringing the energy and talking the talk. You got Nate Hobbs as well. But, I look at CV, man, and I look at him as one of these guys that's going to be, paving the way for the next generation of these corners. Like when you look at a Micah Robinson and a Kalen King, guys that are coming up behind. I think Valentine's going to be a great example for the young DBs in that room for sure.
Yeah. So rounding out here, we said, so there they are. It says the future is bright. So there they are, 3 players working behind the scenes who are ready to make a huge impact in 2025. Emanuel Wilson, the grinder who defied the odds. Brenton Cox Jr., the top-tier talent getting a second chance. And Carrington Valentine, the late-round pick who plays like it was a first-round selection. These are the players that make a good team truly great. Which of these guys are you most excited to watch this season? Are there any other Packers flying under the radar that you think should be on the list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more breakdowns of the Packers roster, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Anybody who watched this individual video, hit sub. We'll be bringing you all kinds of training camp content here in the upcoming weeks. So there you go, Tim. That is the 3 most underrated players. We've also got a Packers free agency addition and subtraction video. We're going to hold that over to tomorrow. And let's just go ahead and dive right into some Edgerrin Cooper.